Have you ever felt like you missed out on something great? Well, here's the wake up call. Some opportunities do not knock twice. So today we're going to delve into three strategies to seize opportunity. But as we do that on day two of 5 stories, 5 days, I've got to intercede about a story about opportunity knocking the first time for me, just so you can see that you just never know when it's going to happen. And over the years, I've learned ways to make sure I don't miss another opportunity. So go back many, 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 many years. And I had left serving the United States Air Force. And I left as a newlywed with no kids. I came back home 4 years later with 3 children. I came back home with kind of an idea of what I wanted to do, but not really what I wanted to do, right? You ever been there? Have you ever had, like, you knew something else was out there, but you weren't sure? Well, I actually started working for a biomedical firm, which the longer you get to know me is probably the worst job in the world for me. I love how the body works, the mind works, right? The physiology and the psychology, but tinkering with a wrench, I've done it. I'll do it, but I don't really enjoy it. And so I was working, and one day, I hadn't been home very long. At that point, 2 kids, one on the way. So I didn't really come home with three. It was like two and one in the oven. Uh, Dad says, "Hey, man, I haven't seen you. You know, he came to visit. I lived in Alaska for, I think he came once. I'm like, sure, I'll meet my old man, right? For lunch." He's like, "Hey, boy, what are you doing? What are your dreams? What are your aspirations? You know, life's changed. You've got mouths to feed." And I said, "Well, I think I'm going to go back to school." But I wasn't fully committed, if you want to know the truth. Like, I thought I wanted to go. I knew even when I went active duty, I'd had about 30 hours of college. I just wasn't ready at that time to go full time. I paid $100 a month for my Montgomery GI Bill, which I since have used every single dollar that was available to me in the federal GI Bill. And he's like, "Hey, my father was a physician. I'm sure you'll hear me tell many, many stories about that over the days, weeks, months, and years that we are together." That's like, "I started my own medical practice." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I didn't really know." Like, I knew what he was doing, but I didn't know what he was doing. And he said, "If you want, I can send you to school and you can come work for me." I'm like, "Doing what?" He's like, "I want to send you to massage therapy school." I'm like, "Well, how much does it pay?" Now, this is way early 90s. And he's like, $10 an hour. I'm like, okay, I have no earthly idea what the hell it is, but I'm going to do it because it's more money than I was making at that time. And then I think, pretty sure I just was like, we talked and we ate our lunch. And then I was like, what the hell is massage therapy? And Dad basically told me at that time in the state of Texas, you could, as a massage therapist, licensed, registered massage therapist, you had to go to 300 hours of school and pass the state test. You could do what they call physical therapy modalities. So you could act like a physical therapist without having to have that degree. And I was like, okay, I still didn't have a clue what it was. I went to the local, found out where to go. There was a new massage therapy school at the local community college. I went and registered. It was a night course, so I could still work during the day, and it was a year long. And there was anatomy and physiology, hydrotherapy, Swedish massage techniques, or a couple other specific courses that you had to take. But I remember going to anatomy and physiology and thinking, there is no way in hell I'm going to pass this. So I went back and I probably walked to my dad's office and I'm like, "Hey, I don't think I can do it." He was like, "Slow your roll, buddy." He goes, "Imagine that learning the muscles, the bones, how the heart works, etc., all 9 body systems, how it works as a foreign language." And then he challenged me at the time to get some index cards, get like a big key ring, and just write everything down and study, study at every break, even going to the restroom, whatever it was, just study and come to him. And we would sit and study at lunch, or we'd go to lunch, or we'd have Easter dinner or whatever at his house. And when the kids were playing and maybe they were with mom or grandma, we could study. Well, I've since earned a master's degree in exercise science. So I've taken A&P 1, 2, and many advanced exercise classes along with getting my life coaching certificate and life experience, et cetera, et cetera. So that moment in the early 90s, after going in the military and serving for 4 years, being 4,200 miles from home, where you can't call your dad or your mom when something's wrong. Well, you could, but it was super expensive in the early 90s. I said yes to an opportunity, and ultimately has put me here because I watched my dad and I watched how he approached business. My dad did not become a physician until I was 35 or 36 years old. I was in 8th grade when he graduated medical school. Then he had to do an internship and a residency and had to serve his time and pay Uncle Sam back. He was in the Army at that time. They paid for medical school. But when he had his own practice, I watched him put the patient first. I managed my dad's practices. There were 3 of them across the San Antonio and Eagle Pass area in Texas. And I watched him. If you had an appointment, you were going to get your time with Dr. Boyle. Now, as the manager, it drove me crazy because I'd look in the lobby and there would be a full lobby at 11:30 or 12 when that was supposed to be lunchtime because each appointment was at 15 minutes. So I'd be in my slacks and my tie and be like, and I'd say, he would open the door. Hey, what do you need? I say, Dr. Boyle. I never called dad at work, out of respect. At home, of course, I said, hey, do you want another hamburger, cheeseburger, dad? How can I help you with the grill? Whatever that was. Over time, I took over the grill because dad, I think, lost his taste buds. He salted the hell out of everything. I was like, holy crap. I'm like, go play with your grandkids in the pool that was supposed to be built for us, but was built for them. And hey, no harm, no foul. They worked their ass off to get what they had. And I would say, hey, you've got a whole lobby full of patients. And he's like, okay, you go back in. If you had a story, if you had a problem, he was still going to listen. And he would often miss lunch and we'd be kind of feeding him on the run. But what I knew was he knew and he understood when you care for the person in front of you, it's the most important meeting you have. So every trailblazer, every life coach clinic I've done, every public speaking event I've done, every boot camp class I've led, all of them, the people in the room or the one person in front of you, even if you're on Facebook Live, you've got one person, that's the most important person. That is the most important person. And I'll never let you forget that. So once again, an opportunity rose and I didn't know it was going to happen. So let's delve into 3 ways to seize opportunities because some opportunities only come once. And I want to challenge you to seize them, be prepared. We talked about in day 1 being flexibility, embracing the day, and greeting people with joy. Be prepared. Stay informed. Hone your skills. Get better. Whether you go back to school, whether you pay for a course, whether you delve into personal development, whatever your skill set is, get better at it. I believe I read one time that if you've read 4 books on any subject, it makes you an expert. So, can you do networking events? Can you hire a coach? Can you be part of a community? Can you stay updated on whatever industry you're doing? Do you think you can do something better than that industry is doing and you start your own business? Ultimately, that's what I've done. Whether it literally started working for my dad for almost a decade, going back to get my undergraduate degree in kinesiology, going to get certified to be a middle school teacher, high school teacher in special ed, health, and science, and then learning from the men and women that were in my sphere of influence. But even the students in the classroom or on the football field, basketball court, tennis court, track, cross country, whatever it was, that group of kids was always number 1. They were always put first, but I was always trying to hone my skills. Every day to this day, I get up every morning and I read first. We're going to talk about all the ways to create an amazing morning, wake up and be amazing and all those things, but be prepared. Never stop learning, whether you're 25 or 85, always, always, always be prepared. Never stop learning and be ready and prepared to embrace every opportunity that presents itself. You're going to want to take calculated risks. I have several trailblazers that are not quote unquote risk takers. You can overthink it. Are you going to miss the opportunity? Even if you take the opportunity and maybe it turns out not to be the perfect opportunity, at least you tried. And I guarantee you have learned. So it's essential to be prepared and equally important to step outside of your comfort zone. We call that embracing the discomfort zone. You must get uncomfortable. You must understand that it's not going to be easy. That first time you stepped on into the job and you weren't quite sure, or you BS'd your way to a new job or a new opportunity, were you uncomfortable? I know I have been. But my sister years ago had an interview with Ericsson in what they were then calling a fledgling division called mobile technology. And she literally told them, I don't necessarily know it all, but I'm smart and I'm willing to learn. And they hired her. And then they got out by Sony. And then she's been all over the world. She's worked with Viacom, all kinds of things, right? But she wasn't afraid to step out of her comfort zone or enter the discomfort zone because she knew she was willing to learn. So are you willing to learn? Are you willing to let your failure be the greatest teacher you'll ever have? And I say failure, but if you learn, it's not really failure. Let's go from the opportunities of working for my dad to 2020. When the world shut down, our hopes and dreams most definitely did not shut down. And what I learned as an athlete, as a coach, was you're not going to win every single game. Nobody's going to undefeated every single game. But you know what happens when you lose on a Friday night? When you lose, you go back to practice on Monday. So when the world was shutting down and things went completely virtual and I was doing a lot more stuff in person, I said, hey, we have to pivot. And in reality, in 2009, I wrote a paper in graduate school about how to influence exercise. At the time was my primary focus through using the web. And there was nobody was doing it then. What I'm doing right now, recording in my home office, it didn't exist. It just didn't exist. So take calculated risks. Stay prepared, stay up to date, learn, see how to do things differently. If the norm hasn't been working and you continue to do it the same way and expect different results, that, my friends, is insanity. That's insanity. Act with confidence, stand tall, look people in the eye, and learn. Once you've identified that opportunity, once you know you're going to take a calculated risk, and once you're going to be flexible, and once you're going to be prepared, because you're already prepared every single day you're waking up and you're learning and you're growing, it's okay to be scared shitless. It really, really is. But you must act anyway. Be confident. Why? Because you've learned, because you've grown, and you're always going to learn and grow. So be proactive, right? Reach out. If there's something you want to do, something you want to will change your life, reach out to somebody doing it. I don't say what's the worst that can happen. Like, what's the best that can happen? They might just say, you know what? Come and shadow me and I'll help you grow, right? So take every setback you've ever had. Know you have been flexing your resilience muscle every time that happens because you haven't stopped. So recently, I have a trailblazer coming back into my world. We've worked together on and off for over a decade. And she was like, do you remember what you said when we first met? I don't remember specifically. She goes, but basically everything you said you wanted to achieve in business and serving people, you've done. One step, next step, next step. Even when you've done things that you know haven't been perfect and haven't worked, and maybe you had to close the door on that opportunity, but you learned so that you'd make it better the next time. And we sat for a minute and we laughed a little bit and talked about all the things that have been going on, from virtual coaching to in-person coaching to hosting global retreats. Those are all things that I had told her that I wanted to do and grow. It hasn't always been perfect, but even imperfect action is action. So remember, some opportunities only come once. You must be prepared. So let's review real quick. 3 ways to seize opportunities. Remember, I'll say it again. Some opportunities only come once. Seize them. Be prepared. Be an expert in your craft, and what I'll call, and we're going to call from now on, your zone of genius. Never, ever stop learning. It also is going to help you continue to age with awesomeness, to extend longevity. So longevity, and we're going to talk a lot about that, from your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, your communal health, all of those things. But by constantly learning, the research shows that those people live longer. Take calculated risks. Take the information and look. So my dad, we're going to talk about my dad a lot. He was quite the teacher, even though he wasn't technically a teacher. He was always a teacher. Back in the day, even from actually the first time I think I saw him ask me to do this was I wanted to buy my first car. He gave me a piece of paper. He told me to fold it in half. This is old school and it still works. You put pros and cons, things you like about the car, things you don't like about the car, and then make the decision. So if you have an opportunity and you ask whoever's presenting it, may I have 24, 48, 72 hours? Then go home and get that piece of paper, fold it in half, pros and cons. That's actually how I went from being a high school teacher and coach to managing a hospital-based wellness center. I was looking to work closer to home. I was looking potentially, that was really the key. That and the fact that gas had gotten to $2 a gallon for the first time. And I was driving a truck. I live in Texas, right? And so I saw an opportunity to manage that hospital-based wellness center. And I saw what the job requirements were. I did my resume. I got a job interview. And then I literally stood up that day, shook the woman's hand in front of me, and said, I do believe I'm the best candidate. But if I'm not the best candidate, I hope you find the best candidate. So then 24, 40 hours later, I actually called the field house. My buddy took the message and told me during athletics. And I asked for 48 hours and I went home and I took that piece of paper, boom, 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 benefits, closer to home, don't work on Sundays, closes at 9:00. Well, high school football, basketball, tennis, all the things I coach are often 7 days a week. They certainly don't stop at 9:00. And they were anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour away from home. So those were all benefits. And then my son was actually in his senior year of high school. And I had never seen him play football. 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. Because I was always coaching somebody else's kids. So you put all that together and I'm like, I'm going to take this opportunity. Of course, it's never as much money as you dream it'll be, but it allowed me to go to graduate school, allowed me to go to life coaching school, allowed me to learn my craft at a different level, but take calculated risk. We'll call it the paper method or the fold over method. Got an idea of what we can call it? So I can teach it differently where we can put a name to it. Every skill, everything we learn, we always put a name to it so you can identify it. Even recently in a webinar, I put a picture of an elephant. It was ways to get unstuck. And sometimes it's about changing your perception of where you are in the room. And said, you stand at the back of the elephant, the front of the elephant, it definitely looks completely different. So they'll remember the elephant. We call that the elephant method. Okay, act with confidence. Stand tall. You've done the work. And also, I believe you should say things that you don't quite understand it, but you are willing to learn. Isn't that the key? You're willing to learn. So 3 ways to take calculated risks, right? To embrace an opportunity, to ultimately embrace opportunity, because some opportunities only come once. We want to seize them. Be prepared. Take those calculated risks. Act with confidence and be persistent. You will be well equipped to ultimately age with awesomeness and live life without boundaries, because you're going to have an opportunity to join the community. You're going to have an opportunity to switch jobs, create a new job. You're going to have an opportunity to retire. What does that look like? And that's what it's about. So 5 stories, 5 days, 5 ways to do things and start to process and change your mindset or improve your mindset. And here's the deal. You spend the time to listen. Thank you. If you learn one thing each and every day, you have done something good, so that if an opportunity shows up, you can do it. Dodger would tell you to keep learning, or Dodger, she's going to take a left instead of a right. If you watched day one, story of day one, right? 10 things my dog taught me. All right, I didn't put a plug in today about, look, our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers so we can serve more, so we can get the message out, so we can do it differently, so we can do health and fitness redesigned. I think it's broken. I think we've been doing the same stuff year and year and year with very limited results. And oftentimes it's just making expensive urine and makes you feel like a failure because you haven't succeeded. We're always going to celebrate with our high fives, our yays for the day, and know that we're making progress. Every day will not be perfect, but you can choose to see the light in every single day. Some opportunities only come once. Seize them. Please subscribe. Please share. And the last two things I'm going to remind you, be sure to tell those you love them, and never assume they know. And today's actionable steps after subscribing, after sharing, after leaving a note so we can build. If you've got other ways to seize opportunities, please share. If those three that I shared with you resonate, please tell me they resonate. But text somebody today, tell them you're thinking of them. It's absolutely nothing in return. Until next time, go be amazing.